Okay, hi everyone. My name is Hannah, and my final presentation is a case study on Rough Point House Museum. So, to start this presentation, I just wanted to state my thesis statement, which is analyzing the cultural historic preservation methods and the history of Rough Point Museum is important because it is the site of complex Gilded Age designs restored with modern technology, and Rough Point Museum was the home of Doris Duke, who founded the Newport Restoration Foundation, encouraging the diversity of Newport architecture. So just for some background, Rough Point is a Gothic-style mansion turned into a historic house museum in Newport, Rhode Island, located on the southern end of the cliff walk with panoramic views of the ocean. Rough Point gets its name from the rocky outcropping at the property's ocean edge where the waves crash. Rough Point was originally designed in 1890 by Peabody and Stearns for Frederick W. Vanderbilt, and then later expanded in the 1920s by Horace Trumbauer for the Duke family. The coastal grounds and ornate gardens surrounding Rough Point were landscaped by Frederick Law Olmsted. So, Doris Duke was the most famous and significant owner of the Rough Point estate, where she left behind a collection of paintings featuring Renoir and Van Dyck, as well as Baroque and Rococo sculptures, Renaissance tapestries, and Ming Dynasty ceramics. These artworks can be viewed by the public today, as Doris Duke left the house and its contents to the Newport Restoration Foundation, or NRF, under the agreement that it be opened as a house museum. Two of the most famous pieces in her collection are shown on the screen and can be viewed at the house today, including the silver Tiffany swan, seen on the right, and the Renoir painting located in her bedroom entitled The Young Blonde Woman Sewing. And now moving on to the architectural style of the building, Rough Point was constructed to be an English manorial-style home with Gothic-style features, which include pointed arches, stained glass windows, ornate window frames, and a dark stone exterior, which can be seen in the photos on the slide. Rough Point contains many elements of the French classical style on the interior as well. These unique architectural features make it an important property to study, as it shows the impact of European architectural design on American Gilded Age homes, which in turn contributes to the diverse architecture in Newport. Now, in terms of the history of the building itself, I wanted to touch upon several significant points in the timeline of the property. Once again, in 1887, Frederick W. Vanderbilt and his wife Louise purchased 2 parcels of land to build a Newport summer cottage. In 1888, the Vanderbilts commissioned the most popular architects of the Gilded Age to build, design, and landscape Rough Point, which this was the Boston firm of Peabody and Stearns and the Frederick Law Olmsted firm. After another change of ownership, tobacco magnate James Buchanan Duke and his wife Nanneline Holt purchased Rough Point in 1922. James passed away in 1925, but Nanneline and their daughter Doris continued to summer at Rough Point. Hurricane Carol then hit in 1954 and unfortunately washed away the Cliff Walk Bridge and severely damaged the grounds. Nanneline Duke decided to close up Rough Point at this time. But eventually, Doris Duke reopened Rough Point in 1958 and began to live there seasonally. Doris relocated the art collection from her family's Fifth Avenue mansion in New York to fill Rough Point with her artwork. Now focusing in on why Doris Duke was important, she was one of the most famous owners of the home, and Doris Duke was an activist, philanthropist, environmental and architectural conservationist, and an avid art collector. Duke founded the NRF in 1968 to preserve, maintain, and interpret Aquidneck Island's then vanishing 18th and 19th century architectural heritage. After she died in 1993, Doris gifted Rough Point to the Newport Restoration Foundation so that the public would be able to enjoy the estate. Doris Duke's legacy at Rough Point is used to address current issues including environmental sustainability, cultural historic preservation, and the impact of economic development through historic preservation. Now, something else that I thought was interesting and wanting to include is that Rough Point is also the site of an infamous murder mystery, which I felt would be interesting to share. On October 7th, 1966, Doris Duke supposedly killed her interior designer on the Rough Point property. Doris and her interior designer Eduardo Torella, who are pictured on the screen, were leaving Rough Point in a station wagon to go to dinner. When Torella left the car to open the black iron gates protecting the estate, Duke moved to the driver's seat to pull the car out of the gates, accelerating and hitting Torella with the station wagon. Torella was dragged across Bellevue, where he was crushed against a tree, killing him instantly. Duke claimed the death was an accident, saying she has no memory of accelerating, despite reports of the pair arguing the week prior. Duke was not charged, and Eduardo Torella's death was ruled an accident. A week after the accident, Duke donated $25,000 to the city of Newport to restore the cliff walk, a deal for the NRF that was made the night of the death, adding to the suspicion surrounding the incident. And on the slide, you can actually see a crime scene photo from 1966 after the car crash occurred. And as if Rough Point couldn't get any more significant in terms of its unique preservation, the Existing Conditions Architectural Company completed a restoration project on the interior and the exterior of the home. And you can see some of these 3D models and an image of the scaffolding from 2020 on the screen. So, to accurately preserve the building's original features, the restoration architects surveyed Rough Point with 3D laser scanning and drone technology to create models of the property. The restoration project occurred in 3 phases, spanning from March 2019 to November 2020. The results of the restoration phases proved successful, and Rough Point stands with more structural integrity today, but the same historically accurate and significant features. Now, to conclude this presentation, I wanted to summarize the importance of analyzing the history and significance of Rough Point Museum. In other words, why we should care about the history of this property. Rough Point Museum is important because it serves as a significant example of cultural and historic preservation, as it was the home of Doris Duke, who founded the Newport Restoration Foundation. Additionally, it is the site of complex Gilded Age designs that were preserved by modern architectural restoration methods that we discussed prior. Understanding the relationship between art, history, and preservation is important in determining what architecture should be restored and which restoration methods should be applied to enrich the architectural diversity of places such as Newport, Rhode Island. And to finish off my presentation, I just have my references. Thank you.